Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Mississippi. We had a little change in programming tonight. The guy that was supposed to be with us had to cancel out at the last moment, so I got Mr. Richard Tyler to come in and take his place. Uh, Richard is from Texas, and he's going to be sharing some of his stories with us tonight, some of his encounters. As always, I'm joined by Blake Duckworth, my co-host. Uh, so, Richard, how's it been going, buddy?
Hey, it's getting cooler. The chiggers aren't out as much. I've still got a few bites, but I'm waiting for the cold weather to get here where I can get out in the grass in the woods and not worry about getting eaten up by the bugs. I hate those. I hate mosquitoes and chiggers and ticks and everything else that wants to bite you.
Yeah, I hate me some ticks.
Oh, but yeah, it's going good. I'm going to be going up to the Honobie Bigfoot conference tomorrow in Honobie, Oklahoma, and it's not everything about Bigfoot. There's a lot of festive, fair atmosphere, but a lot of good people. I've gone on and off there for probably almost 20 years, and it's just fun hanging out up there. And it's right in the hotbed activity. You don't have to go far at all, to for the big guys, and it's got a long history, you know. So if anybody isn't doing anything this Friday and Saturday, might be somewhere you want to go hang out. If you don't even believe in Bigfoot, there's helicopter rides and games and crafts and arts, and it's like a fair, small fair, but got a pretty good lineup of speakers too, and I'm looking forward to it. Really am. So, do you want me to get into my subject matter tonight?
Oh, yeah, go
As
right ahead,
always.
Richard.
Well, you know, in the years that I've been doing the Bigfoot, you know, call it research, looking for answers, whatever you want to call it. There's a wide variety of people with a wide variety of experiences, but I can almost tell you with 100% certainty that if you've done this any time at all, there are things out there that happen. You have no earthly idea what's going on. Okay. There's some people that will consciously discount it, they won't document it, they'll ignore it, and they'll move on. Okay. There's other people that will document it, maybe, but keep it to themselves. And I'd say the majority of people have a whole lot. I can't say a whole lot. That's going way too far. But have a substantial number of things that happen to them out there that they keep their cards close to close to them. They don't share some of that stuff. And Ricky, you and I have talked about some stuff probably that we wouldn't freely share all the time because people are so skeptical. And when you wade off into what they call the woo factor, you lose a lot of people right there. They've got a preconceived opinion that everybody's full of hogwash and they're embellishing, and basically they're calling you an out and out liar, and they don't know anything about you. And I've been in that situation where I've really had to bite my tongue and they riled me. I don't like being called a liar. I don't like people being disrespectful to me. I believe in courtesy and respect. And when a person who don't know you challenges your integrity and puts you down, it hits you pretty personal,
Well,
especially. Go ahead. Go ahead.
the way I look at that, because I mean that's I talk about that a lot. I mean, it's not our places to judge other researchers or even people that's had encounters or anything like that. If you don't agree with it, just move on about your life. You don't.
You're
I
right.
mean, don't try to discredit people and cause more of something it shouldn't be. If you don't
Sure.
agree with it, you don't agree with it. I mean,
Exactly.
myself, we've talked to people that I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. You know, certain things say one thing, but it's not my
Right.
place. I wasn't there. I there's too much negativity when it comes to certain aspects of sightings and talking about the woo factor and stuff like that. That you have so many people that just believe they are, and they are. They're a living, breathing creature, but they
Sure.
are things that happen that people just can't explain.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Early, and that was kind of the subject of my, uh, talk tonight. Is I want to say it was around 2010. Matter of fact, it was up at Honeby, and we were staying in a cabin in that area, and uh, my friend and I, who we were both newer to this, uh, one of the neighbors uh, came over complaining that someone was knocking on the wall outside her cabin, and we she asked us if we could do something about it, see who's doing it. And man, this friend of mine got in his pickup that were parked out in front, actually not between the cabins, but parking area out front where we could see the neighboring cabin. And I don't know, we'd been out there maybe an hour and a half, and we basically were had all the dome lights off, windows down, uh, just hunkered down, kind of with our heads just about backrest level, and we began to hear footsteps coming around the back side of the cabin. Okay, I mean there was, it was fall, and there was a crunch, crunch. You could hear footsteps making it their way between the cabins, and we were parked out right in front of our cabin. We opened the doors real softly, don't slam them, and we eased it over to the front right corner of our cabin, and I've got a cap light and stuff that I could turn on, which we weren't going to. And where we were was not pitch dark, but it was very dark. All the lights were off. There wasn't much ambient light anywhere. But between the cabins and down the hill by that roadway, there was a street light, I want to say 100, 200 yards away, and it backlit the woods perfectly. So I could see the trees and everything backlit by that road street light. And I followed the movement of those footsteps crunching in the leaves right out to the middle of between the cabins. And Blake, Ricky, I could not see nothing broke the light. I mean, I could actually follow it. It was probably 30 feet away from me, and I was actually moving my head trying to see. And at that point, the guy standing with me shoots out and heads for the cabin. And I'm thinking, good, he's going to get his camera, okay? Come out and flash a picture, maybe light him up. Until he got into the cabin and I heard the cabin door lock. He ran inside and locked me out, okay? When he finally realized that was a point there where I broke and ran to the truck. I think I had a camera or some light or something, but at some point, and I'll try to find the video, man. I mean, it's there. It's somewhere. I'll look for it. I couldn't find it tonight. Not in the time, after we had talked this afternoon, Ricky. But that was my first instance where I heard the noise. I could track it through the leaves, but I physically, and people could say, well, it was low light. Well, even if it was low light, it's going to block out the street light. It was backlit. Whatever it was with walking, I should have been able to see it. Now that I never could come to a conclusion on, but I've spoken with other people that have had the very same experience where they heard the footsteps and they could follow the progress of whatever it was, but couldn't see it. Ricky couldn't see it. I sent you one picture. It's A. Did you get that? I emailed it. Did you get that picture, Ricky?
I did, but I didn't have time to post it
You
tonight,
know,
Richard. I'm sorry.
sound can, depending on the environment that you're around, sound can be misleading or, easy to misjudge sometimes, especially if it's a distance away. But, something that close, I mean, you're going to know the direction that it's coming from, far as, not knowing where it's actually coming from. But do you think that it might be that this is just something that popped up in my head? I don't necessarily know if I believe this or not, but just something I thought about. That it's not that they're not actually there. Do you think they can manipulate the sound to come from a different direction that they might be at? I mean, that's not. I mean, we're just talking. That's just
We're
something that
kicking
popped
it
up in my
around,
head.
Blake.
I mean,
Yeah. Texas doesn't have free ranging elk. Okay. There's maybe some game preserves that have elk on them, but elk do not run free in Texas. Okay. There may be a stray here or there. I don't know. I'm not that good, versed on it, but I was in deep East Texas, in an area where I'd had sightings. Matter of fact, it was on the backside of the ridge of the video I have of that 160 foot up in the tree watching us, that I took from about 500 yards away. And I was with two other very experienced researchers. Two things happened at that location. It was I won't say seldom used logging access road, but we spent the better part of the day kind of camped out on the side of the road, and we didn't have one vehicle come through there. So yeah, it's traveled, but not often. And one of the things that happened there is the two very experienced researchers were going to do about a half-mile loop out into the woods, come around back on the logging road, and come back to our little campsite there, just right off the side of the road. And I didn't have a chainsaw, but I had one of those sawzaws, the battery powered sawzaws, and they work great for cutting firewood, And I told them, hey, there was, they had some big tree trunks and, logs and stuff. And I said, hey, I'll cut you up some firewood. I wasn't staying there overnight. They were. And I wasn't interested in tracking down in there where they were headed. So I just said, I'll stay in camp and cut firewood for you till you get back. I want to say it was probably about half an hour or an hour after they left. I had a walkie-talkie. I could get a hold of them. They had a walkie-talkie and they could talk to me. We had communication, it wasn't no big deal. I was sitting there cutting with the wood and sawzaws are pretty loud. They got that buzz to them. And right between two cuts of where I had sawed off and was moving the wood, Ricky and Blake, no more than 20 feet away from me, was a loud, perfect elk bugle. I mean, perfect elk bugle right there. And I stopped and froze and I listened. And I knew right where it came from, and there were some little sapling trees right there. I started softly moving into, it wasn't a thick clump, but you had to kind of navigate through it. But I never heard any movement at all. And I got back about where I think the elk bugle came from, and nothing ever moved. There were dry leaves on the ground. Nothing that I know of could have first made that call, being an elk, they're pretty good size, and I've done enough hunting, I would have heard it move, and there wasn't anything there. My thought is, Blake, they can throw their voice or whatever they do. Yeah, I think I've been in an area with other people, and it was an area where there were no ATVs, but we all heard an ATV on the other side of the creek moving along. I mean, it sounded like an ATV, you know. Um, other time there was metal clanking that we heard. Knew the general area of where it was coming from and did an extensive search for old gates, fences, sheet, loose sheet metal, or uh, welding pipe, whatever. And there was nothing there, but definitely a loud metallic clank. So, yeah,
The sound was there, but the source wasn't.
exactly,
Guys,
exactly.
let
You
me tell
know,
you something
uh,
about an area that Blake and I are going to tomorrow. My brother, for the last couple of weeks, my brother Doyle lives up in Murray County. He's been having howls and screams at night, been hearing them along around 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, I talked to him today, and he told me that night before last, he had was standing in his kitchen right next to the back door, and he said there was a flashlight laying there on the counter, and he said he heard a loud slapping noise on the side of his building, which is just right out his back door, about maybe it might be 15 yards from the back door out to where his utility building's at. He said he grabbed the flashlight, yanked the door open, run out there. Now the whole area in there is probably, I guess, quarter-mile round. That's a cleared area before you get back up into the mountains. And he said he grabbed his flashlight, run out there, shined his light all the way around the back part of the building, all the way down across the front and all. And it's an open area all the way down to the front, about 400 yards long till you get down to the highway. And he said he saw nothing at all. He
yep.
Don't know what it was.
It doesn't make any sense. In that same area, right there in camp, after the two friends of mine came back, and I asked them about did they hear that elk bugle. Of course, they didn't hear anything. And I've seen that before, where you hear something and somebody within just a short distance didn't hear a thing.
No, I mean, the thing about like random sounds like that, I mean, that necessarily may not be connected to Bigfoot. That could be, something which either way you look at it's paranormal, but more of a, energy type of paranormal, or a residual sound or something like that.
Well, you touch on a good point, Blake. I didn't send any of them to you, Ricky. We can do another podcast. I've seen things out there that aren't Bigfoot. Okay, they're alien looking. I've got them on thermal. I've got them on night vision. They were in the area of Bigfoot activity, and people going, "Oh no, now we're hooking in UFOs and Bigfoot." Hey, I'm not hooking in anything. I'm just telling you what I've documented. I mean, it happened unexpectedly.
I've actually saw some of the pictures and the footage that Richard is speaking of, and uh, it's wild. Believe me, it's wild. And Richard, we will have you back for another podcast, and we'll get everything straightened out, uh, and we'll show these pictures and the
Sure. Yeah. I love sharing at that same location. When they got back, we were sitting in little folding chairs. And one thing I like to do, and Ricky and Blake, you probably do the same thing. We never sit in a row most of the time. We sit in circles. If there's three of us, we're kind of in a triangle where as we talk, we can look over each other's shoulders and have each other's back. Okay. And That way you get a 360-degree coverage of the woods around you, and nothing can flank you because somebody's looking that direction. But anyway, we were by this logging road. It was early morning. And I say a road, it wasn't a roadway. It was the harder, sandy, shale, road. It wasn't blacktop. And one of the guys sitting there said, "Hold on." He said, "Hold on." He gets up and he looks. He said, and he pointed it out to me. It was about 200 yards down the road, right where it made a curve. He said, I see a belly crawler. I said, "Oh, really?" He said, "Yeah, he's behind that little," and he described the berm off to the one side of the road. Well, I got my camera and tripod and everything out, and I told the guy, I said, "Hey, look, I know where he's laying." I said, "Start walking down that road towards them, and they've got one or two options. They can stay there and hide behind that berm and let you walk up on them, or number two, they're going to have to jump up and run." Okay. Maybe they could crawl away. I don't know, but I had a pretty good sight of it. And I did see a little bump come up with my binoculars. I said, okay. But Ricky, as well, they blend in so well. And if you took a picture, people would say, it's just, no, I didn't do anything. Well, they're not going to come out and do the hokey pokey in front of you or anything. They hide, and they blend in. But I knew right where he was. Well, this other researcher started walking down the road, and I told him to stay on the left side of the road so he wouldn't block out my telephoto shot of the berm. Well, he got maybe about halfway down, I'm going to say 100 yards. And I've got the audio running, and I'm looking at this berm, this area. I've got it zoomed in. And I can say this much. When that researcher was walking on the left side of the road out of my field of view, I began to see, call it light bending. It's on the video. The video and the colors begin to just kind of waver and shimmer, like a curtain of water or something is across the roadway right there, but it starts distorting the light, kind of similar to what you see when there's heat on a road. And way down there, you can see a car coming, and the thermal heat bends the light, and the car's not really in focus. It kind of wavers or, distorts. That's the best way I can describe it.
Right.
But we didn't have blacktop, and it was in the morning. It was pretty shady. There wasn't anything hot down there. And I pan the telephoto over to the left side where this guy's walking, and you can actually see me moving the camera around and trying to find him on the camera. Okay. And at some point, I'm looking through this trying to find him. I asked the other guy sitting there with me, I said, "Where is so-and-so?" And he goes, "He's right there." So I move away from the camera and I look up, and gentlemen, both of you, I could see him with the naked eye, but he wasn't showing up on my camera. Okay. And I've got the whole video. It's too long to I'm trying to figure out how I could get it to you. It's maybe half a gig, total, or several hundred, megabytes. But anyway, I'm freaking out. Okay. And I didn't know at that time he was, call it getting zapped or what, but he started getting nauseated and sick and stopped and turned around and started back. I repositioned the camera, and at some point he comes back into vision. Now, people would say, "Oh, you just moved the camera. He jumped out of the bushes," and that's fine. They can say that. But I was there. There was a point where that man reached on the road where he was not showing up on the video camera. That's all I can tell you.
And far as that, the whole theory with the cloaking, because I mean that's pretty much what you experienced there was some type of cloaking force
Sure.
field or
Sure.
something to, because the whole you're talking about the distortion and all that. You know,
Yeah.
one of our team members he experienced he what he thinks was cloaking out in California when he had his sighting out there. Um, you know, I don't think it's so far fetched because I mean we have cloaking technology. Basically, all it is something that redirects, like you know, your light waves.
Which is electromagnetic energy. It's in the
Yes.
electromagnetic spectrum, which is the same thing. The same theories
So
drive the properties of
they
electricity and make electricity and yeah.
so who says that they just don't have some type of ability to manipulate light waves? I mean, you know
I
that's
I
all it would
totally
be. I mean, it's not like they're disappearing. It's not like you know it's more of a realistic point of view of it. I mean, yes, it's
sure.
people think of cloaking like you know woo, of course, but
There
it's
there could
it
be a
it
scientific
could be a simple scientific explanation for it.
sure, but when it happens to you out there and
You
you've
don't know
never,
what's going on. Yeah.
hey, you can hear it in my voice. I'm not freaking out, losing it, but you can tell I'm having a problem digesting what's going on here. Um, I took a video in central Oklahoma a day before I had my epiphany with the five, member family group that approached me up close. I was still in the stalking, hunting mindset then, that I was going to trick him and catch him, but we were up on the hill. What had happened is there were three ladies. It was a Native American drum making workshop. I went up there not to make drums or participate in the workshop. I was up there because the landowner was a habituator with the big guys, and she had them all around her property. And I was going to sneak around out there and get me a good video of them. Yeah, right. But at the time, that was my mindset, and for the better part of 2 days, I got run around there with a few wood knocks, a few howls, and they had me. They were 2 steps ahead of me.
They were having fun with you.
Oh yeah, I was their entertainment. And so the three of the ladies that attended the workshop at lunch took a walk down out of this 40-acre clear cut area into the woods down by the creek, real pretty. And they're sitting on a rock, just eating their sandwiches or their lunch and just talking. And one of them looks down this slope and sees a dark head peeking around the tree looking at them, you know. And she gasped and tells the others, she said, look down there. And they had heard of Bigfoot. She said, it looks like a Bigfoot. And she gets her cell phone up and she clicks a picture of it. Okay. They come back. I'd been out in the woods, trying my best. And I came there late to the lunch, and I'd paid like a $75 fee to be there, but not, I did pay for the meals and stuff. I wasn't freeloading, but I came back late for lunch, and these ladies are sitting there gushing about getting a picture of Bigfoot. Hey, fellas, I'd spent a couple of days and I hadn't got anything, and these ladies just strolled out at lunchtime and they bump into one. I got to tell you, I was jealous. This isn't fair, I'm sitting here busting my butt trying to get a picture, and these ladies stroll out there, and in 30-35 minutes, here they come back with a picture. And so it I talked one of them into accompanying going back out there. We spent about an hour on that ledge and down, I want to say 100 yards, maybe a couple 100 yards down to the creek. We could hear a lot of movement, a lot of snapping, a lot of different stuff. And anyway, um, out of an hour of video that I took, I had seen movement, and I was looking through a little 1x1 LED screen. Long story short, And I don't know if I could send you those pictures too. I was looking for some of those today and couldn't find them. But I did get a subject hiding in the brush. I've got about a 15-second clip of them. And for I guess a year, I never really figured out where they went to. There was so much cover and break in the foliage, I didn't really pay attention. And one day, in slow motion, I watched it carefully, and I freaked out, brothers. I freaked out. This subject, and I know people, roll your eyes if you want. I got it on video. This subject actually floats into a horizontal position and shape shifts into the form of a branch that was hanging there. It's grainy. I don't have high dollar equipment, but the video in slow motion, as you watch it, you can see the subject do it. He kind of wavers and looks like just something out of one of these sci-fi movies, and I didn't know that for a year or two after I got the video. But if you study Native American history and legends and they have a lot of this stuff in their history that these things
all that stuff originates from somewhere.
exactly.
All these stories, all these ideas, all they have an origin for some reason. People think of things that are very far fetched, but somebody experienced something along the way to have an origin of these ideas and stuff like that.
Well, if you follow the scientific method, okay, true scientific method, anybody in the forensic field understands and appreciates this. Number one, you gather information, okay? You analyze that information, you reach a hypothesis or an initial opinion, but you consider all possibilities, and you don't reach a final conclusion until you've tested those theories and stuff. I see this so much where these researchers make an opinion very early, okay, with maybe not ever even seeing one, and then come hell or high water, they go out there and they discount anything that doesn't, agree with their opinion, and they hold to things that support their opinion. They actively try to make their opinion correct by expectation bias. And there's a lot of stuff that's happened to me, Blake, I never was expecting in the beginning. I know this much though. They're not a dumb monkey. You can't lure and bait them and drive them around like cattle.
If they were a dumb monkey, we would be able to catch one simply.
Exactly. I mean, they have a lot going for them, and my whole attitude's changed. I don't go out there and have any kind of mindset of luring, baiting them. I just go out there and hang out and see
whatever happens. Yep.
See what's gonna happen, and repeatedly, these things go out of their way to find me. Well, and I know people go,
it's
sounds like you're bragging, but
I believe they can sense your intentions.
Well,
being, or not. I shouldn't say being there, but they know when they should be comfortable or not.
Exactly. I was up in Kentucky. Another guy from Texas. His wife didn't want to come with us, and I had my camper shell and my little covering. It's comfortable, but he had a 32-foot trailer. He said, "Hey, Rick, man. My wife didn't come here." He said, "You can take the sofa, sleeper in the living area if you want." Well, I'm not a dummy. I won't, put down or, I'll take comfort, rather than an air mattress, in a camper shell. So anyway, I went in there and, got all my stuff. I didn't pull it out into a sofa bed. I just threw my sleeping bag on the sofa with a pillow, and I was comfortable, and we had gone out, on that expedition that night, and it was after midnight, and we got in and settled down, and it was about 3:30 in the morning. I'm sitting there sawing logs, sleeping sound, and all of a sudden I wake up. I mean, from a dead sleep, and I'm staring at the ceiling, and the only thing I can see is like a few little tiny, on his stereo system, it had a couple little lights, and I think the coffee maker had a little light. It wasn't pitch dark. I could see enough to get up to go to the restroom, but it wasn't real bright. But I'm laying there thinking, what just woke me up? And I'm listening and nothing. I can hear the trailer owner in that master bedroom area. Man, he's sawing logs, man, snoring and just having a good time with his sleep. And so I start to try to drift back off to sleep. Another reason I stayed in there is I use a CPAP, and I don't need it every night, but for the most part, I use a CPAP, or I could go back to bad sleep apnea. I've used one for going on 20 years, but it wasn't my CPAP messing up, and I laid back down. Now, I never made a sound. Somebody would have had to have been close to the trailer to know exactly where I was laying, okay, in the living area. But right exactly by my head outside the trailer, as I'm drifting off to sleep, I hear a tap, tap, tap. They weren't banging on the wall. They weren't, shaking the trailer. They weren't real demonstrative. They were very subtle. But I realized when I heard that tap, 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 kind of memory, half conscious memory, I realized that's what woke me up. And there was a window right there. Now, I'm going to tell you, both of you, a key. When I go squatching, I'm in it both hands and both feet. But when I shut it down for the night, I'm not getting back up. Okay, I'm sorry. That's me. I know there's other people that they'll jump back up and spend another. No, not me. When I when I go to bed, it's over. I'm off the time clock, and they were tapping, and I knew if I maybe raised that shade, I might be staring at a big old hairy big guy, looking right back at me, and that wasn't on my list of things to do. Other people, they may love it. They may have jumped up trying to get a good look. Not me. I've seen them up close. That's not the way I want to wake up. So I just looked over at the wall and I said very softly, I said, look, I'm tired. Would you please let me sleep? Fellas, there wasn't another knock. There wasn't anything else that happened that night. So next morning, the trailer owner, we're getting up and getting breakfast ready. And I said, did you hear me talking last night? And he goes, no, man. He said, man, I slept like a rock. I said, well, hey. And he was kind of a newbie. I said, hey, they're coming up to the trailer at night here in the campsite, and there was about 30 people with this group. We were all camping in the same area. Well, he gave me this kind of incredulous look. He was being respectful and courteous, but I could tell it was really hard for him to accept, my statement that, hey, these things are coming up to the trailer, knocking on the walls. And so he just said, oh, really? So that day, the group that we were with had a big potluck dinner. Everybody was cooking and fixing stuff, and we're all going to put it together and have a good feast. Well, our thing was we were cooking hamburger patties, cooked up 30, 40, 50 hamburger patties. And as well as I do, when you're using an outside fixed grill in a campsite, you're going to lose several hamburger patties through the grill. Okay. They're going to fall down you're going to lose them when you're doing that many. You just go to flip one and it falls right down between the metal grate. Well, we didn't pull them out, didn't worry about them. Let them just sit there and crackle and cook. Well, that night, after going out again real late, we came back to the trailer. And it had hookups there. So the restroom, water, there was, continuous flow. It was nice, but I mean, probably 100 steps from where we were parked, that state campsite had these like 6 shower rooms, that were very private. You go in there, you lock the door, you've got your bench, you've got the shower stall. It's all tile with a sink, a toilet. I mean, mega size and comfort, a lot better than that little shower that he had in the trailer. So we got through squatching. It was kind of humid and sticky that night. He starts grabbing his stuff. He said, "Hey, Rick, I'm going to go next door to take a shower." I said, "Oh, okay." I was downloading some audio and files on my laptop sitting there on the couch. He walked out the door carrying his towel, and change of clothes and everything. And I can feel him going down the steps of the trailer. I was like 3 steps. About that 3rd step, the whole trailer shakes. The door comes yanking open, and this guy dives in like, with his eyes big as plates, and he just jumps back inside. He looks at me and he said, "Man, something big just ran away out there." I never looked at him. I just kept typing on my computer for doing a little computer work for about 5 seconds, and then I turned and looked at him. I said, "I told you so." But what he did when he came out that door is one of the big guys had snuck up to the camp and was squatted down over the grate, that stoned in grill area.
Get
And
him some hamburgers.
Exactly. They were picking pieces of the hamburger. They weren't expecting anyone to come out the door. And he came out that door. He seen them jump up and tear off through the woods. He ran the other way. I mean, he jumped back in the trailer, but same guy. Okay. I sleep in a camper shell, not out of fear. Okay. But I don't want something big pushing on me through my tent. I'm sorry. But if they come up and they're knocking on walls, and I've got several more stories I can tell you there about them coming up at night. Again, when I'm through squatching, I'm through. Let me sleep. We'll see.
You just want to be left alone. Just let me sleep.
Exactly. I guess that comes with age. I used to not be that way. I'd stay up all night. But anyway, same guy goes to Colorado with the group, and he takes his tent. He didn't bring his trailer. He didn't want to pull it up there in the Colorado mountains, and just, goes up there. He's with another group up there. His brother-in-law goes with him, and they're sleeping in a nice 2-man tent with a lot of extra room. Well, I don't say a lot of extra room, but I mean, spacing. They can either one get up and they don't trip or fall over the other, and they got their equipment and everything. He's sleeping in that tent, I think, the second night. And he wakes up about 2 or 3 in the morning, and something's pushing on his shoulder right there outside the tent. I mean, it's there. And at that same instance, his brother-in-law moves, and the zipper on his brother-in-law's, sleeping bag runs. He turns, and it to him it sounded like a deep growl. Okay. He liked to have messed his bag and pants, man. I mean, it scared the daylights out of him. But yeah, he heard him walking away from the tent. But yeah, they came up and just kind of pushed on him through the tent. So that's a couple of my stories. But I don't know how I got off on that. But I like talking, fellas. It's
we always like hearing your stories, Richard.
Well, I have a lot of fun out there. I don't take it too seriously anymore. I know people have had horror stories and bad stuff. I've never had a bad experience out there. Never have. Never felt threatened. I have felt a few times it would be best to leave, and I didn't push the issue. If it doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. And trust your instincts.
Yep.
Trust your feelings. I'm serious there. You know,
Same here with Ricky and I. Like, I mean, we've had some hair raising experiences, but I mean, never feared for our lives, or never in a standoff with one, or but we
yeah,
always
I
were
don't
like
know
you.
that
If
night at
we
the lake.
take the warning signs, if we, if you don't feel right, just leave. Don't push the issue.
exactly,
That night at the
exactly.
lake, that one screamed at me, or screamed at us. Was in the boat. That was the one night. I tell you guys, I didn't know whether to try to jump out of the front of the boat, back of the boat, or what.
It was
I mean, we was
standing.
there
It was
about 20,
standing up
about 20
over us.
yards.
We were at the bottom of a bank. We were in my dad's boat. It was me, Ricky, and my dad, and we were up close to the bank, and it's probably, I don't know, 20, 30 foot to the top of this bank, and then it plateaus. So you can't see
Right.
what's up on the bank right there. And it was right there. Like, it could have jumped into the boat. I mean,
Yeah, and
we
Richard, this
couldn't
thing,
You
see
were
it, but I mean, it
I
was right
told
there on
Blake,
top of the.
I told Blake to do a yell. Blake was standing in the back of the boat, so Blake does the yell. I mean, just as soon as he does the yell, this thing screams out, and it actually shakes the boat. It shakes me. I'm in the front of the boat. It shakes me.
the
And
screen shakes
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
hey, man, I'm telling you, I did not know whether to jump over the front of the boat, climb
Ricky
in
Bout
Blake's
jumped in the
lap.
water. He was going somewhere. I don't know where he was going, but that's how bad it scared Ricky. I
Hey,
mean,
I can believe
you
it.
couldn't. We couldn't get to the trolling motor fast enough.
I was in Montana with another group, and I had gotten up on. It's hard to explain, but there were two hills, mountains, and a valley, and we were camped down in the valley. And one night we went up on the opposing hill, looking down at the valley. And I don't have a high dollar thermal, but I can tell you the Scout TK, even at hundreds of yards, will pick up thermal signatures. Now you're not going to tell what it is, but
Not super detailed,
it'll
but you can tell something's there.
exactly. It'll give you a detection range far beyond 100 yards. I mean, maybe a quarter of a mile. I was looking probably across the hill. It was maybe a quarter of a mile. But anyway, out of the camp there, I picked up a thermal signature at the base of some trees, looking down at our base camp, and there were several people in base camp, uh, probably watching, and we couldn't raise anybody at base camp because they didn't keep their radios on. So we just set up there on the mountain. Well, when we came in, we talked for a little while. There was a lot of people tired. It was probably after midnight. We all went to bed. And earlier that evening, just down the road from us, Mother Bear, we were camped southwestern Montana, north of Yellowstone National Park. Not out of the question for grizzly bears. You know, there's a lot of valleys that went right into Yellowstone Park from that location. But we saw Mother Black Bear and two of her cubs maybe a quarter mile down the road. So that night, again, I don't sleep in tents. I had my camper shell with a little 10 by 10 tent arrangement, you know, and my porta potty tent all there. I had my living room and bathroom, you know, but I sleep in the camper shell. I don't just tarp material isn't thick enough for me. And again, up there, you know, you got grizzly bear. I wanted a little bit of protection between me and the outside. So about 3:34 in the morning, you know, as usual at my age, the call of nature, you know, it's not an elective. You got to get up and do something. And I threw the little bottle out the window several years ago when using a bottle. I dropped it there in the camper shell all over my bedding. And that wasn't fun at all, folks. Okay. You know, that broke me of that habit. That was horrible. It was disastrous. But anyway, so I get up, I open the camper lid and everything, and I walk across my little 10 by 10 living room, and I stand there in my little porta potty tent. And I was probably about halfway through. I started hearing heavy footsteps at least 10, 15 feet away outside there, somewhere in the back by where, I was using the porta potty. And I'm thinking it sounded bipedal, but it was so slow I couldn't be certain. And at some point, I heard a deep ruh. When I heard that deep ruh, faucet instantly turned off. Man, there wasn't any problem cutting the stream there, and I was out of that porta potty tent heading for my camper shell, because if it was a big guy, I'm not that afraid or scared. But I didn't want to take the chance at being a hungry grizzly bear either. I mean, I've heard stories of them coming right through the tent, on you. So I get back up in the camper shell and I'm listening. I'm kind of looking. I don't see anything, so I lay back down and go to sleep. Now, I had set 2 motion detectors on each side of my truck. Neither one activated, so they never went through the corridor on either side of my truck. They stayed towards the back. There was another camper there that had left some treats and articles with camera traps. Some of the articles were moved, but none of the camera traps were tripped. Okay, how they do that, I don't know, folks. I got no idea. I didn't set my motion detectors as a trap. I just wanted to know if anybody was out there. If I'm sleeping and they're coming up on the side of the camper shell and wanting to look at me through the window, I kind of like to know they're there. I don't want to wake up and look up and see a big, ugly, hairy face staring at me. Again, not fearful, but it's not, the top of my list of ways to wake up. I'd like to know they're there, anyway. That's just me. So next morning, I hear people out behind my camping spot, and we found about a half dozen footprints, casted a few of them. I want to say it was like 16 inches by 5, 6, or 7. It was a big foot, that made it. And I just, I don't know if they were looking at me through my porta potty window, but they made the sound. And one of the other guys camping with us said he had a rock hit his tent while he was in there. It didn't hit him in the head, but he said it hit close to his head, and had a rock thrown at him. But those are kind of neat things, that happen. But I've had them happen time and again when I'm out there camping, and I've had a good time. Some of it, the pictures I sent you, Ricky, are with a thermal scope. I've got some of them marked, but you can actually see, and I'll tell you about this. I was with 5 newbies back in Oklahoma, and we'll go over the pictures, next time. I was there. We were way back in there. We had stuff tossed at us, big stuff that came very close. But out of us 5 folks, none of us were hit. One guy was an active police officer. Another was a retired engineer from NASA. Very, very knowledgeable, very respectful guys, but they were freaking out. I mean, the big guys were having Saturday night fun. How they do what they do, I don't understand it, but I'm standing there and I've got it on audio. I wasn't using my thermal then, but it's on audio. I had a digital recorder running. I'm going to say in the pitch dark where we took a break, it was about a 3 foot long, 5 to 6 inch diameter limb. So it's pretty good size. It'd crack your, it'd bust your head if it hit you, or even anywhere on your body, probably break ribs, probably could seriously hurt you. But we were all sitting there. There was a big oak tree about 3.5 feet in diameter. The NASA engineer had sat down on a root knot close to made a perfect stool, and he just sat down there resting. The police officer, active police officer, was on the other side of that oak tree, just leaning against it with his shoulder. So there was 3 foot of space between the two men. Thick overhead canopy, thick brush, other than on the trail we were on. How these subjects thread stuff through thick, I never heard any limbs brushing. I never heard the object coming through, but it hit that oak tree, smacked the oak tree right between those two men. And I brought my thermal up looking, and it was that big limb was still spinning on the ground. It came in that fast and smacked the tree. Of course, scared the daylights out of them. But yeah, I was kind of chuckling because the guy that was the most nervous on that 5 group of us, I was 6, had 5 of us with us. They were throwing big stuff towards that nervous police officer. They weren't messing with anybody else. So, long story short, I think we were their Saturday night fun. Kind of like
scared. I think honest to God, guys, I really believe that there's a lot of times when we're out there in the woods that we, the researcher, are their fun. I know Blake and I've had rocks thrown through the treetops at us, big as basketballs, hit between us with about 405 foot of distance between us, and those rocks hit perfectly and never touch either one of us.
I was up there in Oklahoma with these 3 other researchers. I've never had this much stuff thrown at us. We were around a campfire out there, and the guy, one of the guys was collecting it. I've got pictures of the stuff. It was pieces of bark, small pieces of bark, smaller rocks, quarter size, maybe $50 size, not real big rocks. And he's getting up. We're in folding chairs. I was standing up trying to. Matter of fact, I can send you the pictures of the tree climber I've got. He was. He might have been the fire control officer. I don't know, but he was watching us up in a tree. And I've got some thermal. I got videos of it, but I can make you thermal pictures and send them to you. But this happened. I'm going to tell you, I was standing behind one of the other guy's chairs. We had a good campfire going, and he got up to go pick up one of the rocks. I mean, we'd say, "Oh yeah, it came in from this." We'd kind of see which way it was rolling or tumbling, and we could kind of figure which direction. About the time we would figure that direction, they'd start coming in from the opposite side of the campfire. They were having a game. I guess it was fun to them. When we figured out where they were coming from, they would change up the direction of who was tossing it, But this guy got up out of his chair, and I've got 2 witnesses to this. They were both there. He got up and he started griping. He said, "Man, can't you guys throw this stuff closer so I don't have to get up and walk over there?" He was saying that as he was walking to this, one object. And I'm standing behind his chair, and after about 5 seconds of him making that statement, I hear a thump in his chair. And I look over, I've turned my cap light on so I can see, and there is a quarter size rock in the middle of his cloth seat cushion. Now you tell me the accuracy of that thing not bouncing out, staying in his chair. And we all 3 heard the thump, and they go, "What was?" I said, "There's a rock in his chair." Now you tell me something that has to. A dumb animal could not. Number one, they understood what was said, and humorously, there was humor to that. They joked back with us. That's the only way I can cut the pie on that. Mere chance? I don't think so. One other thing, I know we're going over. I was again with another group. I enjoy these groups, bro. I really do. I just go out and see what happens. I was in Kentucky with a group. We were in an area, dead end access road that wasn't used much. Are there a chance somebody was hanging out in the remote woods just waiting for somebody if they happened to come by there? It wasn't impossible, but how likely in the pitch dark, But I got to share my night vision scope with a newbie. I saw one in the tree line watching us. I handed my scope to him, and man, the guy, he said, "Yeah, I could see him, the head and shoulders. He's peeking out from behind the tree," which made I love that, Sharon. So anyway, to our right was more stirring. There was a little creek that came perpendicular off the main river. We were being flanked. There was another one over there. I could hear the subtle movement. Well, Kentucky, Tennessee, North Georgia, Alabama, that was all Cherokee, even West Virginia, North and South Carolina. That was the original Cherokee lands before the forced removal. My grandmother was full-blood Cherokee. My grandfather was mixed blood. Very proud of that, but also very proud of my Scots, Irish, and Dutch. It's who I am. I can only be me. But the one over here on our right was, and I've got this on audio. I look over and I figure out where they are, and I just out loud I say "Gata uste do," and I wait. I'm looking over there and "Gata uste do." I know mine has an English accent, my Cherokee, but and I waited about 5 seconds. What I was doing was asking him, "What's your name?" Okay, I was asking him, "What's your name?" in Cherokee. And about 5 seconds after I asked him, now I don't know to this day exactly because the enunciation is clouded by there were people quietly talking behind me about the same distance. So unless I could get somebody to filter out the voices, but it was a one syllable, reply from the hiding subject off to I left. I don't know if it was one syllable name. Clah, clah, would be no in Cherokee. He could have been maybe saying "No way, Jose." I don't know, but I got a one syllable reply from him. Don't know. I've listened to it over and over, but that's one of my passions is that I have spoken Cherokee when I know they're around, and I'm hoping I can get a sentence reply someday. I have one, and I might have sent this to you, Ricky. It wasn't Cherokee, it was Choctaw. A female sounding voice said "Nani Hushkane," which probably a colloquialism, saying "watch out, he's fishing," or "don't let him catch you," something to that effect. But all right, I'll quit talking, man. I've talked for over an hour.
Richard, buddy, we have really appreciated you coming on tonight.
Yeah.
I hope everyone that's watched the program tonight and watches in the future will enjoy Richard's encounters. Richard,
Yeah.
next couple of weeks, buddy, we're going to welcome you back.
Thanks for having me.
All right,
Richard, you're always welcome on the show. It's always a joy to have you on here.
Hey, I love relating stuff that's happened out there. Let me put a caveat. It's not Disneyland out there. The things that killed the settlers 100, 200 years ago are still out there. Be safe. Always have a safety plan in place, and have your head on a swivel. Again, like I said, there's stuff out there that'll hurt you, and it's not the big guys.
Yeah.
Amen.
We have to worry more about hogs here in Georgia. We have to worry more about hogs here in Georgia than we do anything. That's one of the main things that get you in our woods.
Yeah, that's about.
I was jumped by 3 feral pit bulls one time. 3 feral pit bulls. Well, I say feral. They were loose, and it was probably a weed grower had them there for guard dogs, and it was in a public park. It wasn't way out in the middle of nowhere. And fortunately, being honorably retired law enforcement, I had one of my 45s tucked away on me. And if I hadn't had that gun, fellas, I wouldn't be talking to you two right now. So I'm not saying you have to pack heat, but you better be prepared and have a safety plan in place.
Best to to have a
Oh,
safety net
absolutely.
with you.
Well, yeah, even in today's world, I mean, you get off the grid. I mean, you're liable to run into some psycho, or you know, there no telling what. It's just
Yep.
always just better be prepared, have it, not need it, than need it, not have it. I mean,
You're right. You're right. You know, so to each their own. I'm not telling anybody what they should or shouldn't do, but you know, have some kind of safety plan in
yeah,
place.
we all want to go home at the end of the day.
Oh, absolutely. I don't want
Exactly it.
my
Guys, I haven't eaten supper yet, so
okay. I'll
Richard, thank you, buddy, again.
Thank you, Richard.
We'll holler at you here in a couple of weeks and get you back on here. I know the folks have enjoyed having you. We've enjoyed it. Blake, you want to close show out, buddy?
As always, guys, thank you so much for your support. If you're not already subscribed, hit the subscribe button, bell notification, like, and a comment. And if you don't mind, share this video. At least one share. Everybody share it one time at least. That's all, Ricky.
all right.
Uh,
Good deal.
Again, thank you, Richard, and good night, buddy.
All right. Bye-bye.
Blake, I'm going to need a quick bite and go to bed. I'm give out. What
All
time
right,
do you
brother.
holler at me in the morning?
Just go ahead and close out the show.
Okay. I forgot about that.